What is come to your mind when you heard the word vibe coding?
When ChatGPT first came in, it was a big leap, big movement that took everyone by surprise. But since then, they have been competing, and sometimes we felt like we're kind of going backward, similar to what happened with ChatGPT 4 compared to ChatGPT 3. Or there is a lot of things happening right now because there is a lot of money on the table that we need to grab. And there's a lot of investments that is directed toward that. And hyping more vibe coding is a good thing for selling more of that. Yeah.
Do you think is it still the case, or I think with the evolution of AI and stuff, I think it's not like a vibe coding anymore, but
It's still not in a position that you can just trust the code that it gives you.
you can tell that this code is generated by someone who just is vibe coding. I think at the time that this podcast will be published, we might have like another version, like
Will be there, yeah.
yeah.
The entry barrier to start coding is way lower now, which is great. I mean, from an innovation point of view, our job as developers is not only spitting code, right? It's not like just
Yes.
building the code on blind. We're building that code in order to answer a business feature, and that's why the entry to the production scale application is not there yet.
Yeah, that's true. This is like a fact. Currently, is not anymore a hype. It's currently
Sure.
the reality.
If you know what you are looking for, the LLM can basically try to answer that.
Yeah, that's true. You need to double check because
Exactly.
it's funny.
The attackers, what they started to do now is they started to realize that the LLM hallucinates, and it hallucinates for the name packages. React, it just can revert the E and the I. It's like React. And then what they started to do is basically look for those namings and provide them as dependency packages in NPM or whatever.
This is one of the worst nightmare that a founder can have to be able to wake up with no user, which is really hard. It's sometimes you don't have to trust the AI too much because you will end up screwing up something in production.
So just be aware that it gives you suggestions, it's probably give you recommendations, but it doesn't give you best practices, it doesn't give you how things should be. It's like for each developer, we have someone else to help them that is a junior developer kind of. And there is something that's blow up, I think last week in Hacker News or Reddit. The developers are getting somehow overwhelmed from all the PRs from Copilot. So it's a shift not only in startups, but the big companies are also incentivizing the developers and pushing the developers to incorporate the AI work style now. Vibe coding is not ideal, but get into the wagon, try it out, and learn from it. I think it's gonna be the future of what's coming next.
So, hi, welcome guys to Let's Code Podcast, a podcast where we interview software engineers to share their entrepreneurial story. And here we are on a special episode to discuss the vibe coding and the impact of vibe coding on the product that people are built using other tool like Cursor and many other tools that you are been using for vibe coding. And unfortunately, we have like a 3 guests for this today episode, but unfortunately couldn't make it. And we catch up with Mohamed Aboulaid. So let's catch up more about this episode after this intro. So thank you, Mohamed Aboulaid, for accepting my invitation. It will be a pleasure hosting you for today's episode. So can you give the audience an introduction about yourself?
Thanks, Elias, for the invite. Super happy to be here with you today. A little bit gutted for the other guest that couldn't make it, but yeah, we'll try to get the most out of it and try to fill the gaps as much as I can, even if the other ones are super insightful as well. So a little bit about me, Mohammed. I like to define myself as a community catalyst in a sense that I like and enjoy doing community stuff. I help to spin up a few communities back in Morocco and a few others the world as well, and also helped other conferences and meetups and communities. I like doing conferences, meetups, contributing to open sources, all of that. Professionally, what pays the bills? I am a backend engineer in Spotify. That's my full-time job, and that's where I work currently.
Awesome. So thank you so much for the introduction. And also for people doesn't know Mohamed Aboulaid, he's one of the people behind GeeksBlaBla, which is one of the best community for developer in in Darija, which is really hard to be able to have this good quality content from a community in Darija in Morocco. It's a pleasure to host you for today's episode. And if you don't know more about GeeksBlaBla, you can check out their website at geeksblabla.com. I will leave all the link in the description of this video or in the show note if you are watching from Apple Podcasts or Spotify. So for the first question that I would like to ask you for this discussion, because it will be a special episode, not an interview. So for this one, I would like what is come to your mind when you heard the word vibe coding.
So the vibe coding, I think, is a term that was recently hyped a lot, especially that it's basically changed the way how we code. So instead of writing code, we write natural language prompts and telling another assistant what we want and what we need, and that assistant will basically try its best in order to fulfill that, agnostically from what that assistant can be. But I think that's how I see and how I understand the vibe coding term is. Now, obviously, I'm taking it from a developer perspective. I think vibe coding is very developer focused, but I think soon we're going to see vibe everything. It's going to be vibe designing, vibe productionizing. A lot of vibe stuff will follow pretty much soon. And I think the vibe coding term got a lot of attention and momentum because there is a big market in there. I think the market for the public audience got saturated. So when ChatGPT first came in, it was a big leap and a big movement that took everyone by surprise. But since then, they have been competing, and sometimes we felt like we're kind of going backward, similar to what happened with ChatGPT 4 compared to ChatGPT 3. And then the evolution in that sense didn't make much sense from a user end perspective. So we're kind of switching the focus to enterprise now, where the money is. And then one of the ways is basically making coding assistance. And that the promise is we're going to make the developers more productive. They're going to achieve more things using coding assistance. Is that true or not? I think that's we're going to discuss in the next hour or so. But I think the main focus, or there is a lot of things happening right now because there is a lot of money on the table that we need to grab. And there's a lot of investments that is directed toward that. And hyping more vibe coding is a good thing for selling more of that, I think. So there is a business side of it, but also there is a hobby, fun part of it as well.
Yeah, makes sense. And also when you because when we are using the code vibe coding, people are not tending to make it to think about it seriously when they are because it just vibe coding.
Yeah.
Do you think is it still the case, or I think with the evolution of AI and stuff, I think it's not like a vibe coding anymore, but it's like a actual coding?
I think it's still. I've been discussing it quite recently a lot with colleagues and stuff, and trying to get a lot of experiences and feedback. It's still not in a position that you can just trust the code that it gives you. Maybe in small trivial tasks, it could do the job, and you can just go with it. But it still lacks a lot of the fundamentals in a sense where we want a code that is not only working, but a code that works with the standard of the company, the general guidelines, the best practices, and all of that. And the code that the coding assistants produce right now, most of it gets confused at some point. Most of it doesn't respect that. It works, and it works great, but it still lacks that enterprise-grade production level. And that's what a lot of companies, a lot of developers are reluctant to. If you are working on a hobby project, 100% work. If we're working on a team, it becomes a lot more challenging. But I think with the evolution that we got in, I think less than a year time, we can expect something by the end of the year or by late 2026 that we're going to have more controllable, more production grade at least, or a way for those coding assistants to behave more in a way that's producing code that does what we want and respecting the guidelines that it was given. Because I've been playing a lot with different ones, and it pretty much get lost, especially in large code bases. And a lot of the code that we work with is not like small ones, not Hello World example, but code that is shared between a lot of developers, a lot of people contribute to, and has like thousands, if not millions of lines of code.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And also when you are like using like a vibe coding and the AI model to be able to help you with the coding assistant, especially with like a large code base and large products, you will see a pattern that also like you can tell that this code is generated by someone who just is vibe coding. For example, you will see in a maybe in a code that they are using a structure or like a styling for a code, and this is how they are thinking about the schema for thing. But in this function that is in the same like a utility function or utility file, you will see that is treated differently. So you can tell there is like a pattern that you can tell like within like a 1 hour of reading the code, you can tell that this is AI generated code, and this is just vibe coded product that I don't think it should make it to production level like and people start paying it or using it. So do you think currently with this level of that we are currently getting into AI and the stuff with Gemini, Claude 4 and other like a new version of model, and I think at the time that this podcast will be published, we might have like another version like
will be there,
yeah, will be like having a new update about this model. So currently, do you think this is still the case that you can have at least something that can be built? And we are currently, because vibe coding, it could be applied to a technical or non-technical person. So currently we are getting the context that is someone who is technical, who will be writing the code to be able to do that, will have a problem with that. In the meanwhile, we are thinking about someone who doesn't know even like what is a variable, will be coding and using AI to be able to build. What do you think about if we can ship something like it's just an EVP that is kind of working?
Yeah, I think one of the things that the business always try to achieve is going fast and making features available to users as soon as possible. And I can understand from a startup point of view, this is key and this is game changing, because I'm pretty sure in a startup world, or you're just like building your MVP, you want to validate your hypothesis and move fast. And using coding assistants is 100% legitimate there. Because like you want something that you can iterate on fast, add something, do your market research, see how the users will react to it, and then iterate over it. We know that in a startup context, the code that we have now will not be the code that we have in a 3 months time, not the code that we're going to have in a year time maybe. So it makes a lot of sense to move fast, and especially for a technical person, even not a technical person, to build things that gap in a startup in the startup environment has moved way down. So the entry barrier to start coding is way lower now, which is great. I mean, from an innovation point of view, it unleashed a lot of innovation, and we're going to see a lot of startups probably in the next year, and a lot of validation and ideation coming to reality. The problem with large scale applications and enterprise applications is two things. There is knowledge or business knowledge that still those coding assistants lack, or they're using a technology that is very niche. So for example, if you think of either edge, like specific design of Scala feature, or a language feature that is not used by a lot of developers, like JavaScript, Python, Java, those languages are widely used, and if you're not using a specific pattern, you can just build things really fast. But if you're not using a widely known framework in Java, then you're going to probably be stuck. Or probably if you're using a language that is not one of the big 5 or 3, then you're going to be stuck as well. So there is a technical side of it that is challenging, because like the LLM is not trained as much of seeing those patterns, because it's niche and the developer community is smaller compared to the others, so the knowledge is very limited for that LLM to produce that production scale code. The other thing is the business side, because our job as developers is not only spitting code, right? It's not like just building the code on blind. We're building that code in order to answer a business feature or fix some business issue or provide a certain functionality or feature to the user. And all of that is missing in the coding assistants that we have right now. They still lack that understanding of we need that feature to answer a specific business need. All it does, it basically provide you with the technical answer, which it's the last step of all the steps that you do as a developer. So you define the requirement. From the requirement, you see how the technical implementation is. You gather alignment around this technical implementation, and then you split it up into small implementable functions or components. And then that's the bit where you start coding. So you do all that steps, all that mind thinking in order to get there. With the way of LLMs are evolving, we're still seeing a lot of thinking and processing happening there, but that still lacks the general context, I think, where we will still need to see a lot of evolution in there. So it helps a lot in the last step, but all that is above, definition of the requirements, implementation, gathering the alignments, gathering the buy-in, and all of that is still a little bit missing. And that's why the entry to the production scale application is not there yet. However, I still think if someone wants to benefit from it in the next few 6 months, the next year, the time is to start now, so we can understand the limitation of those tools. You can understand how they work, when they work better, how they work better, and then you can build upon it. Because I can see that this is only going to stay in the incoming months and years. It's not going anyway anytime soon.
Yeah, that's true. This is like a fact. Currently, is not anymore a hype. It's currently the reality. So you have to go with the wave instead of hitting the going to the other side of the wave, because currently it's there. You have to use it. And one of the things that you mentioned is give me for example, the one that you mentioned about the AI model. You need for example, there is specific feature that you are using for Java, for example, or Scala that will not be cannot understand. The AI model cannot give you a good answer for it, and you have to do your own research to be able to get what you are actually looking for. It's happened with me FMPEG, which is a video technology, and it was really give me some random command. It does give me a structure, but it's not working. The command doesn't working, and you will need to go and find the documentation for FMPEG. And the problem with this technology, there is not a lot of GitHub projects. There is not a lot of documentation there, and you need to do your research and try every YouTube video and every Medium blog post, everything yourself to be able to get the level that you are looking for. And there is a lot of feature that is hidden, so you just need to ask someone that is an expert, expert that to be able to get your answers. The second thing that you mentioned is about when we learn how to code before the AI model, we need to have Googling skills. But currently, it's no longer, I would say, relevant anymore, and you should be prompting skills. So currently, you need to know how to prompt the AI model to give you exactly what you want, because the AI model is just an assistant, but how you are framing the question and the context that you are giving to the AI model doesn't matter a lot to be able to give you the exact answer. For example, we can have engineer A and B, and they have an exact issue, but this one know how to deal with AI, but the other one doesn't know. The other one will ship faster, and they will have a productivity and the 10x stuff to be able to get the stuff rolling, but the other one will be stuck there. They don't know, and maybe they will blame the AI that is not good enough. So maybe it's not the AI that is not good enough, but you are not using it good enough to be able to get what you want. This is another discussion that we cannot get into, but just I would like to flag this.
Yeah, exactly. I think we are going more and more to LLMs with questions now rather than just searching. And I'm not sure if you have shown the Stack Overflow graphs.
Yes.
Just going in a deep full since 2022, I think, or something. Because of that, because most of the, let's say, the trivial tasks that like something in the API, something on how to do this thing in the other way, how to format this thing and that way, the LLM can answer with high confidence. So we don't need to go for that. Maybe, as you mentioned, the 10% of the cases where you need super specialized things, super niche, where the LLM most of the time get confused, then you need that search skill again, and you go to the forums and try to understand. But most of the time, it's just like, if you know what you are looking for, the LLM can basically try to answer that. And now with the introduction of the search feature, like Gemini, ChatGPT, and all of that, so they can combine both of them. So I think it's, as you mentioned, it's becoming now more of how good of a prompter you are, unfortunately. So the better your prompt is, the better the model can look for the internet and then gets you the answer that you need. And that's, I've been using Gemini, and I'm positively surprised of how good it's getting, because it's backed by the Google, the search engine, so it has a lot of data for that as well. But it's like it just goes through the documentation, looks for the information, and provides you with, at least if not the correct answer, a way forward where you can look for that answer.
Yeah, that's true. And also, like currently with Google, they are like using Gemini for Google search. For example, when you are typing stuff, you will like a summary of
Exactly.
AI.
Yeah.
So you don't have to look for the page to be able to get your answer. You can get it directly to you, serve in a gold plate. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, I feel for all those people that there is a whole business around clicks.
Yes.
That probably is going to be affected by now because of this summary thing. Because like previously, you need to click on something, go to that specific post or article or website or page. Now we're just like grabbing the data and showing it. So it's like, I feel for all those people where all that traffic will just be lost.
Yeah, that's true. This is the problem. And also currently with the ChatGPT is currently there is a leak of Shopify checkout code, so you will be directly having the option to be able to shop directly from ChatGPT, so you don't have to go to even to the website. So you can just click buy it now and it will directly to the checkout page, so you don't have to even visit the website of the store to be able to get the information. Everything will be served in ChatGPT and just one click away from the checkout, which is
Google
really
and
scary.
Yeah, Google announced something similar in Google I/O. Yeah, the demo was mind blowing. But yeah, I think it's they are trying to repurpose the chat surface as your only stop shop that you need. I'm not sure how far we will get to that, but it's crazy that it's becoming, you need to chat with one assistant, and that would be basically it. You're gonna browse the internet from that little app. You're gonna search. You're gonna order stuff. And now with the MCP and agent-to-agent stuff, so everything will be connected. It's just like a world of infinite possibilities that we're going to see. I think if it happens, it's going to be similar to the mobile shift that we had. Like everything is going mobile. I think now everything is going chat and MCP and all of that.
Yeah, that's true. And the only one thing that I would like to add to this conversation, I think ChatGPT and the search AI assistant will become the next super app. So currently we have the super app for like a WeChat, but currently because everything is one application, I think will be the next, maybe everything that we can do. Maybe banking will be in ChatGPT. Who knows? Who know what to expect with this AI stuff? There is a lot of possibility there.
Banking are the last one to ride the wagon. Like it's like when it comes to money, it's like a lot of regulations. But
yeah, that's true. You need to double check because it's money.
That is Morocco were the lowest in terms of adopting the e-payment and the credit card and all of that. Because like we want the physical stuff, we want the money.
Cash,
yeah, exactly. I don't trust paying online.
Yeah, you don't feel it. The problem with the pay online, you don't feel the transaction. It just happen digitally, so you don't feel that you are paying for stuff.
I mean, we invented a whole pay when you receive it just for that. Yeah. It's like just because people wants to get the money. I mean, give them money when they get what they want. So it's like just it's going to be a lot of cultural shifts, not only in Morocco but a lot of countries in the world as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And talking about this stuff, and also would like to mention currently, I see a lot of like one of the horror story that happened with AI that currently got in top of mind is like a recently that's in the podcast. It was like a person built a Shopify application, like it's a web application, and the database was like a vibe coded the application, and the database was a Google Sheet. So the Google Sheet was the primary database for the project, and you can imagine like all the things that will be happening there. We don't need to talk about it. Oh, what like the thing that you see over, especially over Twitter, that you think it's like a programmatically, and especially with security, this is like the big concern because like people are building a SaaS application or micro SaaS application, and they are like using Stripe and all of stuff, using just vibe coding that. What is your take about this stuff that is currently built using AI, and especially by non-technical vibe coder? So people who doesn't know anything about coding, and they are building stuff.
Yeah, I think security is a big one because there is a lot of the attack surface just got a lot more bigger. From the moment you build the app, I think I saw an article a few weeks back where the attackers, what they started to do now is they started to realize that the LLM hallucinate, and it hallucinates for the name packages. So let's say, for example, React, it just can revert the E and the I. It's like React. And then what it started to do is basically look for those namings and provide them as dependency packages in NPM or whatever. So when you download them, it will not fail. It just like, it looks decent. So it has that malicious code as well. And for a non-technical folks, even for a technical one that does not have all that, what do we call analysis, security analysis, and all of that, and what security concern in mind is there is a lot of security concerns in there. The supply chain security stuff would be a lot of issues. The coding standards, and as you mentioned also, sometimes it does some weird stuff. It just like exposes the passwords in a weird way, use hard-coded tokens that is available, use some keys that it used for encryption. All of that are examples ones, because it reads the code that is available in GitHub is mostly demo codes, right? There's a few repos that are true community, very well maintained code, but most of it is not enterprise. Either it's GitHub or it's in the private repositories. So that's what it got to train on, and it's really problematic because even if you use those AI assistants in your work, there is all the companies sign a contract that our code will not be used to train your data. Yes. That's something that all companies sign, or at least majority of the companies. So there is an issue there. So the code that they generate is generally has a lot of security concerns. And I can only see that problem going to be more known, and there is also a market there because now there is a lot of startups that are popping up, or existing startups, companies that are trying to solve that issue and how to showcase how the vibe coding can affect your stuff. But yeah, it just got a lot more worse with the vibe coding, and security practices are unknown, especially for the non-practitioners in the IT world. So be very knowledgeable of that, and make sure that you follow the best practices in terms of at least having some scanning tool, having something that's basically test your code and make sure that there is no vulnerabilities in there. It comes free. There's a lot of free options that you can use. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Security is a big one that it can cost you hard if not well looked at. And the other one is the way you deploy your application, especially if you're deploying in a cloud provider. Like someone can just abuse your application, and then you can find your application scaling to dozens or hundred of nodes, and by the end of the month, AWS will put the bill on you, and you know
Yeah.
why it's happened. Because like you didn't configure it the right way because you just followed what you asked the
Yeah.
Vibe coding assistant, and it basically sets you the things simple stuff without having that clear, well-defined cloud native deployment model that you need to follow. So there is a lot of things to be aware of if you want to take that app from being a MVP, a hobby, into production, and all that stuff. It just like that knowledge is getting from the tutorials, probably from the conferences, which lacks a lot of context and a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, that's true. And also the thing that you mentioned about like the new fission for packages, like
Yep.
the stuff. So currently we
Exactly.
are moving from email to
Yeah.
npm packages, which is really like hard because currently we don't like see a lot of people talking about this issue, and this is what is causing this problem. Is there's not a lack of knowledge, and you don't
Yeah.
think that AI can do this. And also the second one,
Still.
the deployment. So with also the deployment, for example. You are with the AWS stuff that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Currently, we can like expose your AWS API key or something like this for like a S3 bucket, and someone else can use it for a public archive, and
Yeah.
you will get a high bill from AWS. Like I don't expect that, which is because of like exposing some API keys because of that.
Yeah.
Which is really hard. And also with the new AI security agent that currently is in place, because we have like an agent that can scan websites for vulnerability. And you are just sitting and watching, and maybe you left a port like open in this in the server. You don't know what this port does, but you like a people can just log in and have like a privilege to be able to do everything that you can do. They can download database, they can like do some hard stuff, and even they can delete the entire code base and delete everything, and you wake up with no user in the morning, so no one is using the app.
Bro.
This is
Yeah.
one of the worst nightmare that a founder can have, to be able to wake up with no user, which is really hard.
I mean,
It's
to
really
be fair, those stuff can happen without the LLM fault. I mean, but the LLM is making it worse because it pretends to be a knowledgeable person. Like you ask it, and it's like very confident and very sure, because like it convinces you really fast. Like you ask it something, it provides you with very well structured set of thoughts, and then do this and do that, and then you get convinced and you trust it blindly, and then until you hit a roadblock. So it just something that you need to be aware of, basically.
And this is what we call in Morocco كتصنطح معاها.
Exactly. It's like LLMs have a big wide صنطيحة, if you may say.
Yeah, that's true. And sometimes when I am in discussion with the LLM, I am saying this is wrong, and they are saying you are right, and I am doing this, and I say you are still wrong about this. They are still trying to be able to modify the stuff, because currently I don't trust the LLM 100%. Because sometimes I am writing the code, and the code, and giving some example to the Claude, for example, to be able to just follow the same structure, but doing this like a structure for another model. Like for example, I have like a user model, and this is it for the store model. The same function, the same model, the same class, just modify the stuff that will be related to the store model. But sometimes it does mess up for something simple. And even one time I had an issue with a third-party API integration with for example, instead of using better for the API token, it does I couldn't remember exactly what it does, but does something that is not a well known for the API authentication, which is really weird, because I already provide the API documentation, and does mess up. So it's sometimes you don't have to trust the AI too much, because you will end up screwing up something in production.
Yeah, and something that I like doing is just comparing the output of different LLMs. Like I take this same thing and then provide it to ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, and then see how everyone's basically reacts and thinks and builds stuff. And you'll be surprised how sometimes it's quite different. Like one time I wanted to build a Formula One companion app. I asked ChatGPT, I asked Claude, and I asked Gemini, and each one of them provided me with different answers and with different side of APIs. The best one was Gemini because I think it was recent, or it has this web feature, and then it provided me with, use this API, but it's in maintenance mode now, and they are switching toward this API. So I found that really clever, that it just pointed me to that direction. But none of the solutions was ideal. Like, the combination of three might be a good one, but you still need to do the work yourself in order to understand what's happening. Because if you just trust it blindly, you can just probably wait another month, a new model comes in, and you might get a completely different answer. So just be aware that it gives you suggestions, it's probably give you recommendations, but it doesn't give you best practices, it doesn't give you how things should be. There is still human input needed. There's still some research that we need to do in order to have the results that we want to have. Otherwise, you might, as you mentioned, stumble upon a lot of issues, and then few months later, you might just regret why you made that decisions.
Yeah, that's true. Because one of the things that you mentioned, that currently the LLM are trained on public GitHub repo that are mostly, for example, a junior developer who are just starting out, that just building a basic application that doesn't follow the best practice. And there is some community product, but it's not a lot compared to what the other non-community one that is in a good level to be able to get trained on. So the LLM are trained on this stuff, and this is what you will be getting, because you are training on this level of security and this level of best practice, so you don't end up with a good result. And I think this is a good thing for developer, because the subject that is currently in AI will take a job of developer, but because not only because of that, but I think currently with the AI model, the bar is higher for a developer to be able to be considered as a good developer. And because of that, you can tell that a good developer who is someone who use AI model, but can do a code review for the stuff that the AI model, and can know what to use and when to use the AI model, because there's a lot of things. For example, sometimes it's much easier to just try to code yourself, because you already have the knowledge, you already know the stuff in and out. So it's much easier and much time saver for you to be able to build this thing yourself, instead of relying on the AI model, which is really good, because the AI model will save you time, but sometimes if you are using it for this specific task, you will end up reprompting to just get what you already can do yourself. So it's a big problem. So this is my take.
Yeah, true. I mean, it gives you the impression that you're moving fast in the short term. To get up and running, it's just really fast, and that's really good. But at some point, you will hit a roadblock, because it generates a lot of stuff that it gets confused itself, and that's problematic. And then the problem with that code is just you don't know your way around. So you would either you are on prompt mode, or you are on the driving mode, and then driving mode as you are building the stuff yourself. And if you're in prompt mode and want it to turn into the driving mode, you're just what this S word is about. It's that's too much stuff. I'd rather just refactor it. And then if I just rather refactor it, because it's just copy paste code, it just now, I'd rather just throw that code away and start again. We are now in that stage with the AI stuff, with the AI assistants. But I think as they grow, we will see more improvements in there. The beginners and the junior developers, the bar is getting really high now. And because the coding assistant, the way everyone starts to seeing it is for each developer, we have someone else to help them that is a junior developer kind of. Because when someone is onboarding, they lack the knowledge, they just have this general knowledge about programming and all of that, and the AI assistant still excels in that. I mean, they beat every junior developer in the world in that sense. If you compose the problem into small, executable, implementable tasks, then the AI will be able to do it really fast without talking to anyone. And that's where the junior developer fits in generally. Like you need to help them to give them this unitly a small task in order to onboard them and make them aware of the business context and all of that. The AI makes it harder to fit in, but we will for sure need to onboard developers or beginners because that's how the business works. We need developers in order to grow, to become seniors. But it just like the pool of picking the developers is getting narrow and narrower in terms of what it was before, because there is, with every developer, there is an assistant now. So there is almost 1.5, or at least 1 1/3 developer with them compared to what it was before. So that's why just like it will get narrower and narrower as we go in. And with the trend of the market right now, if someone is fancy enough to pull the job posts 2 years ago compared to today, you would just see a decline because of how the markets and the economics shifts, but also because of that, because everyone is just waiting for when the AI assistants are good, so we can have a developer and a fraction of a developer with them, because that will help them to deliver more with less resources.
Yeah, that's true. And also, one of the things that I would like to add to this conversation about the AI model and the job market, and also like the Shopify CEO, like it was leaked. It was leaked, and he published it himself about like currently when you are hiring, you need to think twice if the AI model can do it. If not, you need to hire. So this is like really a bit like a bad for junior developer because they don't have like a lot of experience to bring in the table. So it will be like a harder to be able to get a job right now than before. And also like currently with investors, they are still like afraid of this AI move, and they are still waiting until to know what will happen. So because like they are like throwing money, and this is what make the startup hiring more people, and they are fundraising. So if the investor doesn't bring money to like a startup, they cannot hire if they don't have revenue to be able to support the startup. So I think we are like seeing a bit of not plateau, but a bit like a lot of people are like still waiting.
At least slowing down, if not
slowing
like
down,
just like slowing down. And from a business side, I think it makes sense, because like business is all about generating revenue, and generating revenue means increasing the income and decreasing the outcome, or not the outcome, but the spending. The expenses. And one way of doing that, because like in every tech company, what takes the most of the money is basically the human part, like the employees that you pay. And then if you can find at least 1/3 of a developer, let's say you keep the same size of the company, you can still get, let's say, 20% more, 30% more without paying any extra. And that's, from a business point of view, is a great win. So if you can stop hiring for 1 or 2 years, and you get 10 to 20% more, which is good. I mean, for a company, that's really good. And they are there because we went into the hard truth of 2020 when everyone was crazy about hiring and scaling. And then everyone realized, oh, you're throwing resources into problems. It's not the solution. And then we went through the hardship of layoffs, where everyone was laying off people, and the market then is just shaking. I think we didn't recover yet from that. So it's just like the lesson learned back then. It's just like, let's go slowly. Let's see how the markets would react. And with everything that is happening in the world, to say the least, the economics is not really stable to invest yet. So it's kind of a safe bet now of, let's hold off. We can invest on technology, because at the end of the day, you just can stop the contract with that provider, and that's it. It costs the amount of months you invested in it. But if you hired someone, it's basically spending time and resources in the hiring process, in the onboarding process, and then if you need to lay them off, it's basically another process in most of the European countries or other countries in the world. because you need to pay them the severance, and then you might not be able to release them back as well. So it's there's a lot of challenges with that model as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. This is like kind of a hard time for people that would like to get into the like a like as a developer, getting into the market as a developer, and also because currently also be competing with the senior engineer who got left or get laid off, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of people get laid off. I'm not saying that to be able to scare the people who just would like to get into technology business, but this
Yeah.
is the reality. I'm just like I telling what is currently happening in the market. So currently there's a lot of people got laid off from like a big FANG company, and they are
Yeah.
currently in the market looking for a new job, and also maybe they are looking to be able to build a new startup. Who knows? Like there is like a two-way. Either you are like looking for a new job, or you are building something, your startup yourself, a business yourself. And also like a recent YC request for startup has been announced, like for the new batch for startup, and they are looking for what they called founder design. So currently it's like a designer who knows like a design but can build a startup and vibe code it. So it's currently a new people who is non-technical can enter the market of building startup, and they're currently backed by YC. So if people who don't know YC, it's like a Y Combinator is like the biggest startup accelerator or incubator in the world, backed by like they are invested in Airbnb, DoorDash, Dropbox also. So a lot of big companies that's currently been in the market, and the valuation of the company is like over 80 billion or something. I couldn't remember exactly. So it's like some real real data that they are like having. And what do you think about this thought of the founder who is like a designer can enter the market and vibe code in a startup?
I think again, it goes back to what we said in the beginning, that in a
Yes.
startup world, it does make sense to reduce the expenses and then find someone that's basically can do multiple jobs. We heard about the full stack, it was kind of the full stack thingy, right? The full stack developer that does a lot of things in a startup stuff. He knows a bit of everything or most of a lot of things, that it justifies the expenses, and you don't find in a large companies. In startup, I think that makes perfect sense, because we optimize for delivery compared to quality. We optimize for time to market, then a well-established feature. We optimize for moving fast, then building quality. And it makes a lot of sense, I think. And especially that, yeah, you have a junior, let's say, coding assistant with you that has knowledge about a lot of things. Like, he knows probably the basics of all the languages. He can help you build stuff. He can build prototype stuff, validates your hypothesis. So it does make sense. And not only startups that you mentioned, but also big companies. I'm not sure if you have heard, or the audience have heard, that there is Microsoft as incorporating coding assistants in their day-to-day life, and incentivizing the developers to use it. And there is something that's blew up, I think, last week in Hacker News or Reddit. The developers are getting somehow overwhelmed from all the PRs from Copilot. So it's a shift not only in startups, but the big companies are also incentivizing the developers and pushing the developers to incorporate the AI work style now. And probably not only developers. So the developers is only what we seen, because there is a big, we're a big communities, and that's the community that we're at. But I expect it's also the designers, also the product managers, and also the engineering managers, and things, how they manage, how they shift. I think the product managers will be affected the most, in a sense that they will not only be required or asked to write about stuff or define stuff, but also they will be asked to prototype. They will become more and more technical product managers, that they can prototype stuff, because it's become a lot more easier to prototype stuff, to validate the hypothesis. If they have a feature, they can easily glue a small app that call different APIs, especially if they are the APIs are available, and then spin up something that they can validate the hypothesis. And instead of writing this big document with a lot of pages that the stakeholders and the upper management would need to go through in order to understand the feature, they can also provide that to see the utility of that feature, because it's one thing reading about it and another thing basically seeing it. So I think we're focusing on the developers, but in the IT sector, even the non-technical folks will get affected. And it makes a lot of sense in the startup world, but now even in the big established companies, from the companies that are producing those LLMs, there is a big shift and a big incorporation of using AI and LLMs in the day-to-day life of the technical folks and the non-technical folks as well.
Yeah, that's true. I think the first target was developer, but they are like including other people that are non-technical to be able to use the LLM, because I think the developer who are like people who already like an early adopter of new technology, so it will be much easier to be able to target them first, to be able to use the LLM and get their feedback, so they can expand to other target that will be affected by this AI stuff. And also, I think it will be just the bar will be much higher for that. And also one thing that's like a relation to the same question currently for the founder that will be coming someone technical to build an application, and you mentioned that time to market will be faster. So currently you can just get from an idea stage to have like a proof of concept or an EVP in a couple of I would say they without needing like someone technical. But do you think, for example, I will have an EVP and it's working, but I will like maybe get a funding. So do you think a founder will be later on be hiring a developer who will be rebuilding the same thing from scratch, because the vibe coding maybe they don't have like a good structure or like a base to be able to build on top of that, because you are a non-technical person and you are building a startup. The EVP is working, but something is working doesn't not mean it's good to be able to scale to other people. Maybe you are hard coding some stuff, so there's a lot of like stuff that will happen behind the scene. But do you think, for example, when a person will be getting a funding that they can afford to hire a software developer or an engineer to be able to build and scale the application to hundreds of or like millions of users, do you think they will be building from scratch, or what do you think their like a move will be next? Because currently I heard some story that people will like just throw the stuff away and just build something from scratch, because currently they have the money to be able to build stuff. And do you think will be the case, or what is your thought about this?
I think it would, with the current state of the coding assistants, it will be the case for sure. Because if you have enough money, at least you would need to get someone to make the code more maintainable and easier to contribute by different people within the org. I think that would be the next step, most probably, because of the quality of the code that the current LLMs basically generate, and the structure of it. Because for the one person to work on it, it's hard. For multiple people to work on it, it's probably going to be even more harder. But the case of throwing away or revamping, re-architecturing, redesigning that app is not only the LLM fault. I just want to emphasize that. Every startup in the world goes through that cycle, even if there is no LLM involved. It's just like a matter of, I want to get funding, I want to go to the market as fast as possible, then I want to build whatever the application I have. Because like if you have an army of developers, there's nothing stopping you from building an application each and every week, because you have the resources to solve it. But if you're a solo entrepreneur, then it make a lot more sense to use the AI assistant. So yes, to answer your question, yes, definitely. And then you just like postpone that problem to later when you have the money, you have the time, you have the resources that you can hire in order to solve that. But it could also go the other direction, and then it depends of how much money you would get. You can add more feature to that code, squeeze every bit of it until you have a set of users and then try to reach feature parity. That also can be a path that people can follow, like add more feature, gather more users, and then the more users they have, the more money that you can get from the funding. And then once you have an established set of users that are happy with your product, an established set of funders that invested in your company, then basically you can take that time. So it depends. There is no, I mean, it can happen in the 10th investment rather than the first one. You probably need to do some refactoring here and there, but it can be a mix of both, like refactoring a little bit and then adding more feature. But sooner or later, the code that we gonna see when you want to grow and scale is very different than the code you started with, and that's the case for every single startup that has succeeded in the world.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I doubled down about the stuff that you mentioned. That is not the LLM fault for refactoring when you are like getting funded, because every startup and one of the startup that I work with do this because the code is not good enough for what they are looking for. Yeah, I think this is like a part of the startup cycle, because they are flexible in terms of what they can do, because it's a startup, so they would like to grow faster, and they have like a other concern that like a legacy company, I would say, cannot have the privilege of doing that, because this is a life cycle of a startup. It will be always refactoring and
exactly, and you need to reach a critical stage to justify that cost of rewriting your application. I mean, we as technical folks like to talk about the best practices, the best design, the design guidelines and the architecture stuff, and how it needs to be clean code, clean architecture, and all of that. And then the reality of the market is, or from a business point of view, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you're providing a feature, it doesn't matter if it's written with clean code or written with shitty code, right? It's just a feature that works for the user. The users don't care. If you're providing value for them, they will just follow you. And then it's a problem when you want to add more feature and you want to scale. Then you can see scaling problem, the application becoming slow, more users see inconsistent state and all of that. So we are trying to invest in that to solve the issues, to make the business or to make the app, the feature, more stable. But from a business point of view, just as fast as you can go. Break stuff, iterate faster, gather more users, and then make that a problem of tomorrow. The refactoring the clean code, it will come for sure.
Yeah, that's true. And sometimes the business person will say that refactoring this will be just a waste of time, because they are paying for the time that you are using for refactoring, and it doesn't justify the cost, because you will be spending a week or two, or maybe a month just refactoring something. It doesn't make sense. For a technical person, they don't know if they refactor it right now, they can launch new feature as fast as possible in the next iteration of the product. For example, they already set up a feature flag currently in the system, so currently you don't need to do this. So it's just add a new feature and you can enable for this couple of users. So it will be much faster to be able to do this. If you don't have the system already, you need to build it, so it will eat up of the time of developing the feature instead of shipping it. So
correct.
I think we are in the last section of the episode. So thank you so much, Mohamed Aboulaid, for taking the time to be able to accept my quick invitation. So
my pleasure. Happy to be here and happy to support in any way or form or shape possible. You're doing great, by the way. I'm a fan of your podcast. I'm a fan of the great work you're doing. I forgot to mention that in the beginning. So keep going. I'm a true fan, and thank you for all the great work that you're doing and the quality that you're bringing to the podcast scene, especially in Morocco.
Thank you so much. It's heartwarming to hear about the compliments, because the GeeksBlaBla project, it's one of the things that happened to bring this project alive, because I see the community and the people are willing to be able to share the knowledge, and I am trying my best to be able to have a small part of bringing the Moroccan community to I'm not using Darija, but I'm using English to be able to reach the world, but I'm trying my best to be able to like share and bring the knowledge and share the knowledge of people that will be in the podcast. So thank you so much for.
You're doing fantastic and brilliant job, and please continue doing what you're doing. It's amazing. Thank you
Thank
for
you so.
investing the time and energy in doing so. I know it's hard, and
Yeah.
sometimes you just feel, why not I'm not taking a nap? Why I'm not doing this?
Yeah.
Especially like we are recording on a Friday after 5 p.m. You just like
Yeah.
want to relax and forget about things. But yeah, thank you for keeping up and producing this high quality content, I would say.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to like have you and to heard about your feedback in person. So it's like it's my day already.
Happy to do so.
So for the last section, I would love like your final thought or your final word for the title of this podcast episode, which is the vibe coding and especially non-technical vibe coder and the impact of the quality. That's if you would like have to say like one sentence or two, if you would like to.
Yeah, I just like probably not something that is not ideal, but just something that comes to mind. Vibe coding is not ideal, but get into the wagon, try it out, and learn from it. I think it's gonna be the future of what's coming next. It's gonna sooner or later becomes part of our coding style, our coding journey, our kind of body that we go to. So learning it, experimenting with it. It's a fun journey. It's a learning journey. We as developers went through a lot of changes in the technology side, and this is one of them. So it's better off that we get early, understand, adopt it, and learn from it. And if it just go through away and didn't happen, then you lost nothing. If it's becoming the next big thing, then you are an early adopter. You understand how it's happening, and you might have that early advantage as well. It's a long one, but I mean, you get the first section, and the other one was just like an explanation of what I had in mind.
Yeah, it's all good. So thank you so much, Mohamed Aboulaid, for the time, and you are on a Friday also to be able to be with me on this podcast session. So it will be. Thank you so much for the time, and see you guys on the next episode.
Thank you.